brother. Mainstream media. Government cover-ups. You want answers? Well, so does he. Live from Austin, Texas, broadcasting worldwide, it's Alex Jones.
Now I take you to Lloyd Chapman, a frequent contributor to the transmission. He is one of the only pro-small business groups in the country, has, I don't know, close to 300,000 members last time I checked. And he's the president of the American Small Business League. And he points out that the federal government violates federal law. And he's gone over that. And then later I'm going to get the calls with, like, Maggie, 1340 AM KOMI listener, and XM listeners and others that are patiently sitting there. We're going to get to you as well. I have to go into overdrive. Shortwave listeners, we're going to get to all of you. But Lloyd Chapman has pointed out, this is a big deal. Just like the government shipping drugs in and guns out to kill their competition. The government's a bunch of criminal mafia. And if you don't admit it, they'll just keep expanding their criminal operation. Upwards of, what he said, 90+% of small business contracts under law are supposed to go to small businesses with you know, all this federal purchasing. But instead it goes to offshore corporations and Fortune 100. And now our researchers have discovered, Lloyd Chapman has discovered, that they have a secret blacklist of American small businesses. And so we hear all this talk of small businesses, but we see insider Democrats giving, you know, $500 million free cash of taxpayers, but none of it goes to build jack squat. It is a total hand-over-fist looting, and I wanted to get you on in the perspective of the Occupy Wall Street. We got a bunch of kids funded by George Soros and Obama saying tax the middle class and shut down capitalism. That's exactly what the big monopoly men want, Lloyd.
Absolutely. People need to realize that our government runs on contributions from Fortune 500 firms, and the K Street lobbyists run on contributions from Fortune 500 firms. Our Congress, our government, our president, they do not pass legislation to benefit the people. They pass legislation to benefit the people that fund their campaigns, like Goldman Sachs and J.P. Morgan. I love to see those kids protesting Wall Street. Hope they stay down there for a year. There needs to be 1 million people on Wall Street.
I agree with you, but the main demands that at least the media gives attention to, the dominant whore media, is increased taxes on the rich, but the Warren Buffett plan goes after the middle class, not the exempt offshore corporations, and they're calling for Michael Moore and others are dressing up like Mao Zedong, you know, running around saying off with their heads. This is being Democratic Party run. They're trying to co-opt the opposition.
Yeah, you know, it's funny. Something occurred to me the other day. I'm sure this occurred to you like 5 years ago. But the very Fortune 500 firms that control our government also are the ones that run what percentage of the ads on national television? 95%?
Yeah.
So it's hard to get the truth on national television because those are the same guys, you know, that are making all the major contributions. But people wouldn't believe how corrupt the government is. People just wouldn't believe it. And the things they're doing to the public are just, you know, my biggest problem is when I talk to a journalist and I tell them, I'll just read a report from an inspector general, and they can't believe it. They can't believe it. So I'll actually just read a report from the inspector general, and I'll be labeled a conspiracy nut and a lunatic for just reading what an inspector general said.
Oh, yeah, the CIA inspector general in 1997 found the CIA was running most of the narcotics into the country through licensed cartels. And if I talk about that today and even play the clips, I'm a conspiracy theorist for showing the CIA admitting it.
Yeah, you know, the government spends a lot of time and money trying to convince people I'm a conspiracy nut. In fact, to tell you the truth, Alex, I've had 6 national television appearances canceled in the last 60 days. And I've called my staff to call these, the last one was the Lou Dobbs show. And I said, call them up and ask them, how did the government know I was supposed to be on your show? So when you got a phone call from some government PR guy and said, don't put Lloyd on your show, he's a conspiracy nut, he's a lunatic. How did they know I was going to be on your show? Did you call them up and tell them? I didn't. How did they know? And, but yeah, they do not want people like you and me, you know, telling what's going on. You mentioned Eric Holder, by the way. So anybody that's ever heard my name knows that for 20 years I've been winning lawsuits against the government. and exposing hundreds of billions in fraud and abuse, right? Eric Holder's my number one enemy. So if I'm trying to get information on billions in fraud, I'm up against that guy and the Justice Department. And they've done everything they can to withhold information that proves that companies like Fin Mechanica in Rome, with 75,000 employees and $30 billion in assets, are getting $250 million a year in federal small business contracts. Eric Holder will stand in the door and not let you get that information.
Well, Eric Holder has been caught perjuring himself. In public speeches, he slipped up and admitted their Fast and Furious thing. Then he said he'd never heard of it. Now it's been confirmed in Congress. It went all the way into the White House. But again, the Republicans can't really go after it because the gun running was going on under Bush, too. That's the big, dirty secret. If you read the Sinaloa drug documents in federal court, they were authorized 5.5 years ago to do this. This predates Obama. He expanded it and then also used it to demonize the Second Amendment. So he went further. But this is systemic, rotten corruption. For those that don't understand, explain to them the federal law that if you're going to have all this government contracts, then it's got to go to small businesses. But that's not what they do.
No. So think about this, people. It's been shown by the Census Bureau and groups like the Kaufman Foundation that small businesses create between 90 and 100% of all net new jobs. 100%. Federal law for about 55 years has said that a minimum of 23% of all government contracts should go to small businesses. Well, that makes perfect sense, particularly now since they create 100% of the jobs. And there's been 15 federal investigations, not Lloyd Chapman, the conspiracy net lunatic. The SBA Inspector General said this in 2005, quote, "One of the largest challenges facing the Small Business Administration and the entire federal government today is that large businesses are getting federal small business contract awards." And that's been named for 6 consecutive years. The SBA Inspector General has named that as the #1 challenge. So here we are. The whole nation's going bankrupt. We're trying to create jobs. Small businesses create 100% of the jobs, and over 95% of all federal spending goes to Fortune 500 firms, which conversely, let's figure this out. If small businesses are creating 100% of the net new jobs, how many jobs are Fortune 500 corporations creating? The truth is Fortune 500 firms haven't created one job in 30 years, one net new job, and yet 90 to 95% of our tax dollars go to those corporations.
Well, even Dennis Kucinich said this. This should be one of the Occupy Wall Street groups, that just like in China or India, you know, their government contracts have to be domestic. They don't deindustrialize. They're trying to industrialize. And even Dennis Kucinich came out a month ago and said the head of the President's Economic Council, the former head of General Electric, is only creating jobs in India and China. They're moving with the bailout money the factories, the X-ray systems, everything out of the nation. It is the policy to deindustrialize this country to bring us to our knees. That is what globalism is.
Absolutely. You know what's shocking to me? I don't know this for a fact. Somebody told me that the president of General Electric, the company who's shipping more jobs overseas than the company, sat next to Michelle Obama when the president gave his job speech.
No, he did. No. He comes out and lectures about American jobs while they're shutting down hundreds of power plants because if General Electric doesn't own it, or if you switch over to their service company that will upkeep your power plant and all of its scrubbers, then you get the magic wand. It's literally the mafia. It's hire my cousin Luigi, General Electric here, or you're shut down. I mean, they're that naked. I mean, these are hardcore crooks.
Absolutely. Here's something I want people to know. President Obama gave his job speech on Thursday. The first African-American president in history. Listen to this, folks. Friday afternoon, around 4 o'clock in D.C., the Obama administration very quietly, and got zero press on it, released a policy to abolish the oldest and most successful federal program to direct infrastructure spending to minority-owned companies, the 5% contract to go for minorities. So under the first black president and the first African-American attorney general, they are abolishing the oldest and most successful program to create jobs in minority communities coast to coast. It was completely and totally unreported on. Nobody knows. It wasn't picked up anywhere in the media. I've had my guys on the phone for 3 weeks telling people about it. And, gosh, another bill popped up the other day. Sarah McCaskill popped up with bills every day that could potentially put around 500,000 small businesses in bankruptcy to work with the federal government. It's shocking. Again, it's so different than what people think it is that it's just hard to believe. People say, well, that can't be true. That just can't be true. It's true.
Well, look, the globalists went in the 70s, and they publicly told China, let select corporations use your slave labor, and we're going to move here. And so these very same multinational corporations get laws passed and regulations to shut down regular commerce so they can move everything to China and India and Mexico. And they've done it. And they're not going to stop. And because they want us poor. I mean, there's so many globalist documents we've read on air where they say they want you so poor, you're busy just trying to get enough money to buy food so that you're not uppity. They know people that are middle class become politically active. And they're getting rid of it. They're ending America as we know it. They're ending the American dream.
Absolutely. I want people to remember three things that Thomas Jefferson said. He said, every generation needs a new revolution. He said, all tyranny needs to gain a foothold for people of good conscience to remain silent. And my favorite phrase, that should get the FBI knocking on my door, he said that the tree of liberty needs to be watered from time to time with the blood of patriots and tyrants. He's my kind of guy.
Now, you've got hundreds of thousands of small businesses as members. Are they starting to get more and more angry?
You know what? They're angry, but they're afraid. I'll have to tell you that small businesses are afraid. They're just afraid. They're afraid. You know, the government is just, they're terrified of the government.
And that is why they fail. Government is gang raping us for their banker masters because we've been over. And it's time to stop acting like it. It's only encouraging. Folks, your cowardice is what is encouraging all this. It's what is allowing this. It's what's bringing it. But just finishing up with the point that you were making in closing, Lloyd Chapman of ASBL.com, that's the American Small Business League. Folks, I see citizens just shake in fear. Like I had the Border Patrol 100 miles into the U.S. come over and say, turn my camera on. And I said no to them. Everybody's amazed. I would just say, no, it's my First Amendment. And then I said, no, you're not going to violate, you're going to violate my Fourth Amendment and come on the bus. And then they backed off. The point is that we've gotten to this point where we have let criminals take over because we think of government as our master, not as our servant. And what did Thomas Jefferson say, to keep quoting him? When the government fears the people, there is liberty. When the people fear the government, there is tyranny. And I think that's a good place to leave it. Final comment on that subject, Lloyd Chapman.
You're an American hero, buddy. You're the new Thomas Jefferson. I love your show. You're one of the few people that's telling the truth. I wish that you were on national television 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. People need to hear what you've got to say.
Well, I'm not as you know, my friend, I'm not a hero and you're not a hero. We're just trying to survive here and doing the best we can, ringing the alarm bell. But there's the prestige of being on national TV, but we reach over 10 million a week just on YouTube alone now.
Good.
And so there's that illusion that we're the alternative media. We are really the new media.
Well, let's just say this. People need to quit being afraid. Quit being afraid. These bozos work for you. Quit being afraid. Do something. Do something.
Lloyd, we got to do a full hour and take calls from small business owners in the near future. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for being on with us.
All right. Talk to you later, brother.